And you don't listen to me.
It's very sweet.
I know I didn't, well, I got the drug honey. I'm not using the drug honey.
She's got the tea, she put the honey in there. And then I have the cough drops for her.
Okay, Corey.
Oh, yeah.
Hot water. Cold water's not good. So if that's cold water, it's not good.
Thank you, Robert.
If it's regular
Okay, stand by.
temperature, room temperature water, it's okay.
It was room
Hot water.
temperature. I don't drink cold.
I do.
Yours is doing good, it's much better.
Yeah.
You're not coughing like you were. Cough drops are
I
helpful.
can feel where it's stuck.
D-Don Maxwell, you need to tell people it's D-A-W-N.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to fix it so it will be at Recovery Talk Live.
Hi, Corey.
It's saying it's too many.
Can you hear me? No? Okay.
I might just say at Recovery Talk if somebody's not using that because we have too many letters in Recovery Talk Live for it to be our.
Why is it at? Can you just say what you're talking
No,
about?
this is Twitter.
Well,
Twitter
at,
is an at.
That's an app.
That's built in already when you put it in. Yeah.
Okay, I don't care.
You're interested in care.
See, then you can also try recovery.
Hi, this is Colin Tandy with Recovery Talk Live. We're
Just
calling
Recovery
you.
Talk.
RTL.
Thanks.
RT Live.
Or just
Can you hear me,
Recovery
Corey?
Talk. Maybe
Can you
just
hear me?
Recovery
Here you go,
Talk. Get my last one out. How many minutes is the first segment?
9. Or 10.
Ah, listening up.
Earring.
You guys can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. And now you can't.
A death sentence
What do
in
you want?
Sudan for refusing to recant her Christian faith. The Pope thanking 27-year-old Miriam
Okay, so I'm
faith and courage.
going
What are they
like
saying?
Ibrahim
about her
heading for
Christian-
the U.S. with her
Oh, this
husband and 2
commercial.
small
I'm just
children. Both Italy and the U.S. working
This is
for
news.
her release.
I know, but it was
Debate
interesting.
continues over a death row
happened
execution
to that
in Arizona. Blaze Radio's Greg Moore reports.
Arizona Republican Governor Jan Brewer calling for an investigation after the lawyer for a death row inmate claims the
listening live
inmate's
to the
execution
station
was
camera.
botched.
It's
Attorney
news.
Dale Bache saying his client
You'll hear
Joseph
it on
Wood
your
took
show.
2 hours to die, gasping
We're
and
listening to the
struggling for
news, and
breath.
then
The
we'll hear
execution was
Colin's voice
expected to
doing our
take
opening.
about 10 minutes. Attention now focusing on the specific drugs used for lethal injection. Richard Brown,
Are you
whose
hooked up with us,
father-in-law
Colin,
and
or are you on
sister-in-law were
delay?
murdered by Wood, says he doesn't
I'm on,
particularly
but I'm
care
not,
that the drugs did not work quickly.
Why didn't we give him
I'm
a bullet?
muted.
Why didn't we give
But
him
I-
some
but you
Drano?
can hear
Why
what
didn't we
we're
give him
hearing. You're
something
not on a
else?
delay.
Everybody's worried about
Okay.
the drug. You know, these people that do this, that are on death row, they deserve to suffer a
You're our
little bit.
main guy. You're not
Blaze
on
Radio's Greg Moore reporting. I'm Brad James with news on the Blaze Radio Network. Truth lives here.
Arizona News Radio, U.S. Marshals join in the search for Wade Dickinson, the Yavapai County inmate who escaped July 12th.
He is 6 foot tall, weighs 190 pounds. He's a
the
white
hot
male.
Death penalty opponent Donna Ham criticizes the botched execution of a death row inmate yesterday.
This was an experiment on a human subject. The Department of Corrections did not know what they were doing.
First American death in
happens, you better
2014 of West Nile virus, a 62-year-old man.
Avoid standing water
You can
around
say
your
the
house.
ailing
Get rid of
on
those
that
tires,
song.
the flower pots where mosquitoes like to breed.
Some heavy thunderstorms in northern Arizona. This one over Prescott.
Heavier showers initially started around Prescott.
All right,
and
stand
now
by, you guys.
we're
It's
beginning
gonna
to
be,
see them all the way from, Skull Valley and all the way up to Ash Fork through Williams and to Flagstaff.
And a new state law against sex trafficking takes
I think
effect
is it
today.
306?
Arizona
Is
News
that the time?
Radio.
306, what?
306. It
Yeah.
depends. They seem to
This
have a 10,
KNFX
15
traffic
second
report is
variance.
brought to you by Burns Pest Elimination. In
Sarah.
Tempe, we have an
Sarah's
accident off
with
to
us.
the right side of US 60 eastbound,
She's at
approaching
Fort
Loop 101. Over in Chandler, we have an accident, Chandler Boulevard at Loop 101.
Robert
And in
said
Phoenix,
we
we
met
have an
him
accident,
not in the
43rd
Senate
Avenue, just south of West Indian
Every
School
2
Road.
minutes we have to plug the show.
When you don't call Burns Pest Elimination and
Feel
complete
free
your
to
PIN,
jump in.
call Burns now, and your first service is 50% off.
I have
Visit
to train you.
BurnsPestElimination.com. That's
I know.
BurnsPestElimination.com. Now let's take a look at your weather.
Hi everybody, Chad Reynolds from the
Getting me
KNFX
all
Weather
flushed
Center. Well,
and
today's
sweating
day 2
already.
of our excessive
I
heat
got the
advisory
fever.
for
I don't
the
have a
valley.
fever.
Expect more moisture to come into the area as well. We
It
could
is.
have
Is my hair
sporadic
okay? Am I
showers throughout the
fluffy?
course of the evening. Today's high should be around 113. Tomorrow will go 111. Chad Reynolds, Independent
It's
Talk,
the video.
1100 KNFX.
Currently in Midtown, it's 114 degrees. Next news is in 30 minutes or when it breaks.
114 right now.
Right here on
That's where our
Independent
kids
Talk,
are throwing up
1100
over there.
KFNX.
Yeah, a bunch of weeniuses. Okay, get ready.
Here's Colin.
Welcome to Recovery Talk Live, an ongoing open discussion about psychological, emotional, and spiritual recovery. Our mission is to deliver the message that those who are suffering with emotional trauma can recover. And now, here are your hosts, Dawn and Terry.
And welcome to Recovery Talk Live. You're here with Dawn Maxwell, registered addiction specialist, and my partner,
Terry Liddell.
And we are back, Terry, for part 2 of a major adventure. Are you feeling adventurous?
I feel so adventurous.
Okay, I don't want you to be frightened. I want you to
No,
stay with me.
I'll stay with you.
We keep each other anchored,
Remember,
right?
I'll always get you out of whatever hole you dig.
I'm so grateful you have that little Play-Doh shovel that you use. That's about the biggest hole I get in. Okay, so last week we went into some sensitive waters, and we were educating the listeners about women who are in a relationship. Primarily, we focused on a marriage with men who are in a sexual addiction and what that looks like. And we had life coach Pamela Conti on, and she is going to be joining us in our next segment for part 2 of that conversation.
Okay.
And you're listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry, and please check us out at recoverytalklive.com. But to recap, Terry, for the listeners last week, will you describe what sex addiction is for the listeners? I actually had somebody ask me last week that they really weren't sure what it was.
Well, sex addiction, as any addiction, is something that you put as a very important part of your life in spite of the damage that it does to other people. So an addiction, in this case, sex addiction is an addiction to a feeling to a perceived need or want that you have that isn't being met by your partner or your spouse. And so the reality of an addiction is simply that I'm not getting what I think I should get out of whatever the relationship is, and so I'm going to go find something else that will fix whatever that problem is.
Okay, I'm glad that you said perceived need or want in your relationship or marriage, because had you not, we would have been having a serious issue right now, because it isn't the fault, and I do want to add that current statistics say that sexual addiction is 50% men and women now. Women are sex addicts just as much as men. That's what our good friend Randy Moriitis from the Crossing Church, whose name I always slaughter, told me. I know, you know, we love Randy.
Moriitis,
yes,
Randy.
According to Randy, give him cred on this. So we're focusing on women today.
Well, the interesting thing, because it's true, what we're seeing a lot of, and in my private practice, I'm seeing that both men and women are concerned about this, or they're dealing with it, or it's part of their lifestyle. So it's not just a male thing, which in the past a lot of people said it was. So and it has to do with a lot of things that are going on in our culture today. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a serious problem in many arenas.
So I'm having a thought.
Okay.
Yeah, don't be shocked. Don't even go to the places I know you want to go.
Okay.
We talked about last week how, and Pamela will probably address this when she comes on, how women comply with sex acts that they are not comfortable doing in order to please their husband, keep the love, whatever that takes. Do you feel just conversely, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live, please visit us at recoverytalklive.com. This is Dawn and Terry. Do you feel that men who are in a relationship with sexually addicted women are performing to please the woman? It just popped in my head.
Yeah, simply stated, yes.
They will.
When you have a relationship with somebody, and I'm going to use the concept of I want to have a good relationship. Now, that doesn't mean healthy, but I want to have a good relationship. So what will I do to make that relationship work better could be almost anything. So if you get a male or a female who says this is what I want, or this is what I saw in the movies, or I think this is what we ought to be doing, or we're watching pornography, or we're doing something, then the focus moves off the relationship and into to an act, if you will. It's something that if we do that, will be better, which really gets things way off kilter, if you will.
And you know, when in studying this in school to be counselors, the basic definition, I think, and there's often a misunderstanding is people think sex addicts are just horny. I mean, I hate to say it like that when really they're broken, low self-esteem, and there are many underlying issues. But are you in agreement with that? Because I just feel like there is some labeling going on when there are other underlying issues.
Well, I think the fact that we try to define something with a simple label
Right.
doesn't work.
It
It just doesn't work. But it's how does society explain things? So we're very good at label making.
We are very good.
And I think that's one of the risks that we take as a society, because it's like saying anybody that is blank. So we put different labels on people extremely quickly without a whole lot of thinking or evaluating or dealing with what's really going on. So when you look at a sex addict, it's like, oh, a sex addict. Okay, when I say that sex addict, people already have a preconceived vision of what that is, and it's instantaneous, and it's always a man, and it's always this, and it's like, no, that's not true, So I think part of the things that we're talking about here is saying this isn't just a male or female issue. It's an issue between people who theoretically say, I love you, I care about you, you're important to me. But this is getting between us, and it's creating a lot of conflict in both sides of the relationship.
So if you just tuned in and you're in your car, you are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry, and you can visit us at recoverytalklive.com. Today we're talking about sex addiction, and we're going to be focusing, we have a life coach here in the next segment, on what it's like for the partner in a relationship with someone who is sexually addicted, and the demeaning and the low self-esteem that accompanies that. That's often not addressed. Our guest, Pamela Conti, often refers, I've heard her say, they are the silent victims in sex addiction. And I'm going to ask her more about this. It often feels, this is not an area I have personal experience with, but when I'm hearing other people's stories, it sounds abusive to me. That there is a lot of pressure. If you love me.
If you love me is true. If you love me, you'll do this.
That sounds abusive.
Well, okay, if you love me, you'll take out the garbage. Is that abusive?
Yeah, but that's not violating your own body and compromising yourself.
Okay, so then we have to put some sort of parameters on when you say, if you love me, you wills.
But would you agree that's what people say? And that's why women, especially in a culture where men, primarily, especially in the Christian culture, tend to be the dominant figure, will be submissive to things that they are not comfortable with because of the perceived power
You're
of
walking into a place
bail
that's
me out,
there.
bail me
No,
out.
I'm going to let you wander around.
You said you'd bail me. You brought your Play-Doh shovel.
Yeah, that's it. And
Okay.
so, but I think the problem that we have in this process is that it's like, what's okay behind closed doors? And if you read Song of Solomon, if you go through what the Bible says about sex, that's an X-rated book.
That is an erotic book.
Okay, so
that is an erotic biblical book.
And if you look at what God says about two people who care about each other, there really aren't any major boundaries. It's
no, I disagree with you here on Recovery Talk with Dawn and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com.
Okay, what's this time?
Okay, if we're going to read Songs of Solomon in the Bible, it's very graphic, what God's description of what a man and a woman in a marital relationship looks like. But in reading every verse, I haven't read it for a while, the people are present with one another, and nobody is fantasizing about another person in their mind.
That's what I just said. I just said that.
No, you said there's no boundaries.
There
the
are no
boundary
boundaries.
is you are enjoying the bosom of your wife, you are enjoying your husband,
and
you're not fantasizing about somebody else.
Well, I said if you have two people, are we going? You jumped off the cliff here real quick.
No, because you said no
Let's go
boundaries.
back to there are no boundaries.
Boundaries keep things safe.
If my wife and I, behind closed doors, agree on what we're doing, and I'm going to take physical pain out of the equation.
Please do, yes.
But short of that, what we agree to do, are there any boundaries?
If she agrees to do it for the sole reason of pleasing you, and she's not in pain, but she's uncomfortable with the act, it's a problem.
No, that's your opinion.
That's my opinion. If you're giving up a piece of yourself, or if you feel like you're violating yourself, you have an issue.
Well, see, I'm not sure I share that, but come back for the next section of Recovery Talk Live and see what happens.
Yes, and we'll be visiting us at recoverytalklive.com. We'll be back with Christian life coach Pamela Conti talking about sex addiction.
America is truly exceptional, and she deserves.
Good.
I can't believe I didn't cough through
All right,
that.
now let me join this. I have to join this
As
up.
respecters of freedom, we must commit to raising the banner of freedom for all.
How did I
to see.
sound? I know I was
Hi, this
raspy.
is Shane
Yeah, you do.
I was
You sound-
cracking.
you sound-
American
you sound-
Academy for Constitutional Education.
Well, you know, I did that breathing treatment right before she picked me up, and it's a stimulant, so and I'm not used to that. So I'm just not, and I only did that out of desperation, so I could be present with you, Terry, at the table.
That's AAFTE.com.
All right, so did we
How's our
did
topic
okay
going?
so far? Just I don't want to cross any of your boundaries.
This is news every hour.
She can hold
Sure.
her own.
From the
Sure.
Blaze Radio
All right.
Network. The Blaze Radio
I have a
You have to
really,
come sit down here though, either over
here
there
or there.
over here.
If you
She
listen to
might
the
have more room
buzz
on that
from
side,
online
but then her
brokerage
back will be to
firms,
the camera.
managing
She's
your
talking.
investment portfolio
Let's leave it up to
is
Colin. No, we want you
easy.
nice.
What they don't
Colin,
tell
what
you
side do you
is that
want her on?
effective management requires a
Oh, no.
considerable
Did you just
investment
connect
of
us? But
time.
you're going
The
solo,
mutual
baby.
funds tell you to buy
Stay-
and
stay in
hold
case the
and
music
let the
comes on, 'cause you
market
just
take
connected
care
us.
of you.
I have different
How's
music.
that strategy
I don't
done
have-
for you
You
recently?
don't have the
huh?
station music?
With managing your own investment nest egg,
I've got a
no.
busy
deliver the
signal with
results
the
you
radio
hoped for.
station in the
It's
background.
You
time
have
to get
station music?
serious and talk to Arlington Capital
Oh,
Management,
no.
a
We're
registered
going to be
investment
dead air.
advisory firm managing portfolios
Okay.
in excess of
You wanna hang
$500,000.
this one up?
Their proactive asset allocation strategy,
We've never
or
done that.
PAS, keeps you ahead of the curve and your money working hard.
We're not-
So you
and
have
not-
more
neither-
time
none
to
of us are on
concentrate
the
on
camera.
other areas of your life. Learn about their
No, we're
unique
close.
investment model at arlington-capital.com. That's arlington-capital.com. Or call toll-free 855-471-5796. That's 855-471-5796.
She can go
Arlington
on this.
Capital
She can go on
Management.
this.
Managing wealth to enjoy
Hello.
life.
Give me something.
Ranking Arizona reminds you to
Yeah, he
vote
said
for
the
your
reception's
favorite
bad.
Arizona
Those
businesses
two phones
before
have to be
July
hung up, though, for you to
31st.
dial
So
out.
vote early and vote often. And when voting for your favorite radio station,
dialing
remember where you heard
No, he's
this.
dialing out, and they're
Independent
on the
Talk,
same line.
1100 KFNX.
Google Ranking Arizona.
Sometimes when politicians don't know they're on camera, the truth slips out. That's what just
I don't
happened to
even know anything
Christine
else.
Jones. In her TV ads, Jones talks tough on immigration.
Say
Jones
hello.
says she'll secure
Yep.
the border and make the federal government pay the bill. But Jones knows
Okay.
that's
Don,
not
you get
the
my phone.
Yeah, I don't hear the
And
music.
Jones
though.
was recently caught on
Oh.
camera admitting
Sorry,
her
one more.
bill
I
the
don't hear.
federal government.
I don't hear the station.
Listen to Christine Jones in her own words.
Start over again. Corey, got to start over again.
Which is why I said to the people of Arizona, you're going to have to pay for this.
So even while promising Arizonans one
Okay,
thing
got
on
it?
TV,
Got it. All right.
Jones gets caught admitting those same promises are phony. Haven't we had enough of politicians who promise one thing to our face but say something else when they
Nice.
think nobody is listening? If we can't trust Christine Jones to tell us the
Okay.
truth now,
Pamela,
how
there's
can
yours.
we ever trust her to secure the border? Paid by Ducey 2014. DougDucey.com.
I'm Diane Douglas. I'm the only pro-life, pro-family, conservative Republican running for superintendent of public instruction who is opposed to Common Core
Sorry about that, I
standards. Common
disconnected us.
Core is the Obamacare of education. This big government program turns over control of our children's education, teachers' pay,
You can't get
and
on that one?
schools' ratings to the
Is she in the
whims of
camera?
Washington bureaucrats in the
Is
Obama
she in?
administration. Common Core also mandates long-term data tracking of your children. My primary opponent,
We can't
John
get on that one?
Huppenthal, supports Common Core. This unconstitutional mandate will also bankrupt districts by forcing expensive, high-stakes testing, robbing our classrooms of needed funds. I'm Diane Douglas. I'm running for superintendent of public instruction to stop Common Core and return local control to Arizonans. I am asking for your vote.
Okay, and when we're
Paid for
going
by
out,
Elect
I'm
Diane
listening for the
Douglas primary.
16-second beat.
You want to come listen here?
Here we are, here we are. Okay. And welcome back to Recovery Talk Live, here with Don Maxwell, and
Terry Liddell.
you can visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We have a contact page, and you can send your questions there, and you can also tweet us at @DDonMaxwell, that's DDAWNMAXWELL, your questions and concerns. And we are back with our old friend, Terry.
My friend,
You're
old friend,
our-
my
well-
old friend. Do you know what she just called you? Old?
Old
Are you?
friend. You are listening to, we have our guest from last week in part 2 on our series on sexual addiction and what it is like for a COSA woman, a woman in a codependent relationship.
What's COSA mean?
COSA is a woman in a codependent relationship with a sexually addicted man. And we're focusing on that angle today. And we have our new sponsor, Pamela Conti of Conti Christian Life Coaching with us. And last week...
Nicely done.
Thank you so much. I have a little experience at this,
yes.
despite what you say about me. Last week, you and Pamela had lively discussions. And every time we went to commercial break, they got very lively. And I'd like to revisit those conversations between the two of you. And welcome to the show, Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are happy to have you here. And could you please just give us a synopsis of what it's like to be a woman? Tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, your experience in this, and what it's like to be a woman in a relationship with a sexually addicted man.
Well, I experienced it for 23 years in a marriage that I was in with a sexually addicted man from day one. Before we were married, he brought it into my marriage, and it was undercover in my marriage, and I did not know of anything about it. So my journey was 23 years of learning what it's all about, and that's where I'm at.
Okay, but tell us what it feels like, what it looks like to be in a relationship. Last week, you and Terry got into some lively conversations on the break about the violation that you feel, being the silent victim. I want you to think about the woman driving around in the car right now who's participating in sexual acts that she is not comfortable with.
Yes, what it looks like in a marriage is most of the time it's undercover and you discover it. It's a journey of discovery of what's going on in your relationship. You know something is wrong in your relationship, you know something is off in your relationship, and you just can't pinpoint it. You're lonely in your marriage. The person is supposed to be your best friend. The person is emotionally detached. The person isn't attentive to you, not complimenting you. As a matter of fact, the person can actually be very critical and mean and cruel, and you don't feel loved and cherished.
Now, you heard Terry and I speaking, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live. You visit us at recoverytalklive.com here with Dawn and Terry. And I know, Pamela, you were privy to our first segment, and Terry was saying that it's because of a perceived need or want that men go into pursuing sexual addiction and asking their wives to participate in sexual acts they're not comfortable with. Terry shared with us last week, in his first marriage, he actually struggled with that. And you had a really definitive view of what that looks like. And I want you to talk about the brokenness that a woman feels.
When somebody violates that inner voice, a woman in a marriage with a husband in a sexual, intimate way, it violates her in a way that you can't explain. It violates her, her being, her person. It violates her at the soul of who she is. And she does it out of love for her husband, but it's really kind of destroying her. Little by little, it's destroying pieces of her in her relationship with her husband. And I say it's not love, it's lust.
What do you say to that, Terry? Pamela's saying it's not love, that it's lust. You were saying that men will ask, because if we talked about if you love me, you will blank.
Well, you guys keep piling on me, and so
you're our male prop,
so
we're using you, buddy.
I'm the one who's getting picked on here. So let me put it to you this way: how do you define love? And the definition of love, if we all could agree on it, we'd have a common denominator, a common stick to use to measure. But when you have people coming into relationships and they come with a history and they come with all kinds of stuff, I think I told you last week, in my house, I grew up in an alcoholic, violent house. So when somebody said, I love you, I kind of figured I'm going to get hurt.
Correct.
So when people say to me, I love you, it's like, really? What's that mean? So I had a very warped view of what love is. So, so defining that in the beginning really is where I'm going to go. It's like, how do you define love? And what Pamela's saying is, I think, is huge. But if you don't have an understanding of what love is that you both agree upon, then where you go with that is very different. If I'm a male and I say to you, well, if you love me, you would do that, whatever that is. And the wife says, well, if you love me, you wouldn't make me do that.
Correct.
Now what do we do with that?
That's pretty much probably how it goes down. Is that correct, Pamela?
Yes, I think there needs to be a discussion between the couple.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes the woman can be being violated and not even mention it to her husband.
Well, I think that, see, and I think that's a big, yeah, because if we're not talking, there's a thing that I believe in, if you don't tell me no, you told me yes.
Okay, I don't believe, well, you're saying silence is condoning, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. This is Don and Terry. We're here with our guest, life coach Pamela Conti, talking about sex addiction. So you're saying if the wife doesn't say no, I don't want to participate with sex toys, fantasies, or whatever the thing is that the spouse brings in the bedroom, that they're condoning it and saying, yeah, I'll go.
Well, if you don't tell me, okay, you have children.
But don't you know your wife well enough to know she doesn't want to perform at that point?
You have children.
Yes.
Your children come up and say, Mom, I want to do this. And you go, well, okay, let me think about it. No, I don't think that going to Disneyland at 10 o'clock at night at the age of 9.5 is a good idea.
Because you know to set a safe boundary for them.
Okay. So you have this discussion, and the kids are mad and all this stuff, and they throw temper tantrums, and they do all kinds of things. And they finally wear you down, and you go, okay, go. Now what happens?
Well, you let them violate your boundary. So you're saying
Okay.
the wife is letting her boundary be violated.
I'm saying, no, you don't get to put words in my mouth.
Well, I'm
don't
seeing
walk
where
down
you're
that
going.
street.
I want to
Here's
hear
what I'm
Pamela
saying
has
is
to say
that
about this.
Pamela said, if we don't talk about this, if we don't have, back to my measuring stick,
Right.
if we don't have a similar way to define what we're doing, if you don't tell me, no, that's not okay, I'm not willing to do that. If you do that and don't tell me it's not okay, then you've told me, yes, it's okay.
What do you think about that, Pamela? We need to hear a voice on this.
Yes, I think it's important that they do have a discussion about it, you know, because we can't be mind readers. Mind reading is never healthy in any relationship.
Okay, but wouldn't you agree, Pamela, that a lot of women will just participate maybe for years
Oh,
before
back up,
they
back up,
find
back
their
up.
voice?
No, can't go that on the street. No.
That happens.
It doesn't matter
We've
that it
both had
happens.
clients where it
What matters is that if I don't tell you no, and I wait a year later, now this thing is blown up into something that I, as a male, aren't aware of. You never told me no. You never told me you didn't want to do this. You never told me. So by default, and that's the tough part, and that's where the
Correct.
lack of communication and all the other
Yes.
things we're talking about comes in, that if I don't know what's right and what's wrong, if you don't tell me what you want, then I get to be the bad guy for doing something that you didn't tell me was not okay. So guys can take it. Now this is the part of the process that I'm actually owning up to.
I'm tracking with you.
Okay. So I can go, well, you know, why you didn't tell me no, so why isn't it okay?
Because
what do I do with that?
You're getting mixed messaging because she was
huge mixed
compliant. What do you say to that, Pam?
Well, I say maybe she thinks it's okay at first, the woman, but then maybe as time goes on and he thinks it's okay and she's participating, there can be things that build up in her that she realizes this is violating her. So it's violating her and she needs to speak up. Women need to speak up for what is violating them and set boundaries so they can be healthy and in a good, healthy place in their relationship with their husband. Communication is very important and she needs to stand up and tell you, no, you know what, I'm not comfortable doing that. Let's not do that.
And you are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Don and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We're here talking about sex addiction today with our special guest, Christian life coach Pamela Conti. And Pamela, I want you're on a track. That's useful. Because I, as we're sitting here today, I keep visualizing a woman driving
in a car listening to this, realizing she's not comfortable. So when we get back from the break, I want you to focus on ways to get out, respecting what Terry said, that maybe they've gotten some mixed messaging, because it doesn't necessarily mean the end of a marriage, but can definitely blow up. So join us after the break. You're here with Don
I
and
think
Terry.
that's a really good, I think it's a huge thing. So we'll be back shortly.
You jumped out too soon.
The music stopped.
Coverage
It's
you
that
can
same
count
thing.
on
It
around
faded
the
for a
clock.
second like last week, and I thought
Jim
we were
Howell on
done.
weather.
And then we
And
got
the
like 10 more
KFNX
seconds.
Yeah, then it comes back.
Independent Talk, 1100
Yeah.
KFNX.
Arizona News Radio. Very hot temperatures across the state again today. SRP's at an all-time energy use demand yesterday.
People's homes aren't cooling off quite as
To
quickly
what?
when you
I'm listening.
have
Yes, I'm listening. No, I'm listening.
cooling down a
I'm
little bit,
listening.
so temperatures are air conditioners are running.
No, I'm listening. It's just the music cut out, Colin.
Also consumed by their
I'm
customers,
good.
but no record.
I came in on time after the break.
so far this year with about 7,000.
But that music, remember how the music cut out last week? It cut out again.
Yeah, it went down and out.
I'm wondering if their recording has, because last week it happened twice, so I'm wondering if their recording has a dead spot in it.
Don't know. So the thing that I think we need to keep walking down is recognize that if there isn't communication, that's the loud noise that you're making. If there isn't communication.
Yeah, but you guys need to say this on the air, because you guys get lively every time we go off air.
Fix, and that's what I'll say. I'm trying to
Well,
trying to answer your question.
Well, now is it an easy? Now I want you to consider something. Okay.
I think it's.
Is it an easy fix? 6 months, you and I have been swinging from the chandeliers. Okay. And now all of a sudden you tell me.
You guys better not do this
no.
again. You got to say this on the air.
Okay, I'm just going to say this on the air.
Okay.
So
Take
we've been
her
swinging
there.
from the chandeliers, and now all of a sudden you tell me no. Why is that okay?
Well, I think that she can have resentment. That's what I'm going to say. Resentment's building up, and she's afraid or fearful.
Okay, but what I want you to say is, what I want you to say, what I want you to consider is, how does that fit on me? Because I've been going along, let's play pretend. Yeah, everything's wonderful, everything's great.
And now she's got to stand up and say, you know what, it's not.
Say that you guys have to have this conversation on
Because
the air.
that's the better truth.
Yeah, and this is, you know, we got to live in the real world, present world. You know, people, do things all the time that they don't have to do. So yeah, we'll go there because that's realistic. And then, you know, they have issues.
Currently in Midtown, it's 114 degrees. Next news is in 30 minutes or when it breaks. Right here on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX.
You gotta say this stuff on the air.
But, yeah, so we'll talk about it.
Using smokeless tobacco is
Yeah,
just as bad as smoking.
the whole thing about
Cover your.
Think again. Your choice to chew also
It's
affects
commercial.
your health.
I can't hear the music with your
It's
talking
commercial.
in the phone.
Helpline today. The Ash Line is not just for smokers. They can help
We're
you
getting
out.
feedback on the phone.
Many of the quit coaches were former tobacco users too, so they know what it's like to quit. Call the Ash Line at 1-800-5
Okay, now,
222 or visit us
what about money and respect?
Your daughter just joined the band
You didn't know.
and needs
So you're getting like a huge wake-up call, like, what? I thought everything was great. So you're going to have to love your
No,
wife
it's
in this
definitely
area.
not
You're
the
going to
time.
have to
That's why you want fast-acting Advil.
back it
It has
down.
fast-absorbing
And you're gonna
Advil
have to- you
ion
may not
core
be happy.
technology and goes to work.
But if you love her,
Fast-acting
cherish her.
Okay, what about if you respect me and care about me? See,
Yes,
okay.
that's right.
See, now,
There's no camera.
Yeah.
We need to angle our camera off to the
Right.
side.
So, see, the point I'm trying to make
Can
in
you
this
put
whole
the
thing
camera
is that
off
this
to
is
the
not
side?
easy. This is not
like
simple.
it's-
This is really this is a
It
journey.
starts with communication in any relationship.
Hello, hey Sarah, I'm here.
Through the financial statements that you file with the court. These are key exhibits, and they often make or break your case.
Did you hear that, Colin? Sarah says it sounds like we have a radio on in the background because she's getting reverb. I think it's because our guest is on a cell phone sitting next to us, and we're trying to create a buffer for that right now.
Is it bad?
We can put her at the other end of the table if the distance makes. Will the distance help? We're gonna. Yeah, Sarah said move
Okay,
her.
we're going to put her out in the parking lot, actually.
No, I was hearing it too. I was having a hard time hearing myself. So we're gonna move her.
So, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks,
Cool.
Sarah.
That's the optimist. Oh, it's in your
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell.
Okay, talk.
Litigation firm Cordell. Here are a few quick
You want to talk into
I
the...
can't hear him because I'm hearing the
you do.
feedback. What, Sarah?
Move out of your house just because your wife tells you
She said
to.
we have a minute.
Remember,
That
that's
was a
your
minute
house
ago.
too.
Okay,
And number
I'm
two,
hearing something.
don't
Okay,
blow
talk.
through the financial statements that you file with the court. These are key exhibits,
I
and
think
they
you're
often
okay.
make
Still,
or
Still,
break
it's
your
yeah.
case. And number
No,
three,
I can still hear the
watch
feedback,
social
and it's sounding like
networking.
we have a radio in the
Expect your
background.
wife's
Sarah
lawyer to
said.
do a thorough online search. And incidentally,
Unless we
this
put
is
her
a
in
two-way
another
street. Now, a bonus tip.
Put her in.
Partner with your attorney in assembling
Yeah.
evidence. You're one of the two leading experts
Should be
on
like
your
a
life and
caller.
marriage. Your attorney needs your input to achieve your goals. By the way, unless you're in Missouri or Illinois, I'm not licensed in your state, but that's okay. Our attorneys in your state are.
Call
Yeah.
Cordell and Cordell to
Yeah,
schedule an
that's what it
appointment
is.
with one of our firm's Arizona attorneys.
Can you try to get her on the other phone?
602-995-6666, 7150 East Camelback Road, Suite
We just don't want it to
444,
sound like there's a
Scottsdale,
radio playing
Arizona,
in the background of ours.
85251.
Well, we'll just live with this.
And welcome back to Recovery Talk Live. You're here with Don Maxwell and
Terry Liddell.
And you can visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We have a comment page. We have a contact page. We want to hear your questions, your concerns. Terry and I will personally contact you. And we are here today talking about sex addiction. And we're with our new sponsor, Pamela Conti of Conti Christian Life Coaching. And before the break, Terry and Pamela were talking about what it looks like. We got as far as a marriage, a male addicted, sexually addicted male.
Okay.
Who, with a wife who's been compliant and participating in sexual behavior she's not comfortable with.
Right.
The resentment has built up. The husband is having confusion because he thought his wife was willing to go along with this, and all of a sudden she's angry. What's been building up inside of her, Pamela?
She's probably not wanting to be with him anymore. She's avoiding, actually, the whole intimacy act with her husband. And she needs to have a conversation with him before they just go their separate ways.
Can you tell us what that looks like, though? I want you to get more into the emotion of it.
Yes, the woman is being violated now. She's not wanting to have anything to do with him. She needs to have the conversation with him, and he may not be happy, right, Terry?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's the thing that you're looking at is that I'm going to play husband for a minute. And, you know, you and I have been having what I thought was wonderful, or at least it was pretty exciting to me. And here we are, you know, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6 months into this, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, I thought we were okay. And I don't know any different, so it feels very, very, very strange to me. It's just like, what happened here? Because we were okay 5 minutes ago, and now we're not.
Well, this is how you grow in any relationship. We all know that, you know, relationships aren't perfect, and I think having the conversation is the beginning to it, and it's just a matter of all of us just being honest with ourselves, what we want in life, what we want out of our relationships, and just coming to that agreement. If the husband loves her and she loves him and they want to have a great relationship, they need to honor and cherish each other, how they feel, be honest with each other, and work through that and get to a level where it's real and they're connected and it's not just this lust thing, or she doesn't feel objectified by it all and like an object. You know,
Okay, now, because now you're
Okay,
using...
wait, before you go on.
What?
Just, I have to say you're listening to Recovery Talk Live with
Oh,
Don
okay.
and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. And Pamela, you know I love you, girl, but I feel like you're glossing this over because a woman, and I know I've heard you say this, she's often afraid to bring it up to her husband because she fears it will end the marriage. So it's not that easy, like we're going to have a conversation over dinner. There's a lot of resentment that's built up and a lot of anger. Some women just ditch the whole marriage and are too afraid to bring it up. I want you.
Now, I'm actually, this is strange. I know this is next
no.
up what I'm about. I'm actually going to jump into Pamela's camp because
Okay.
She said conversation, communication, talking. If that's going on, then this isn't going to be a marriage-ending situation.
No, but women are afraid to jump in.
Well, okay.
Well, it depends on, let me jump in. It
Okay.
depends on what the relationship is like. You know, most people want to remain married and work on their marriages and have great marriages. And, you know, marriages are difficult. Let's face it. It takes work. And it takes two people to have a good one. It doesn't just take one person. So the woman needs to be herself and tell her husband, hey, look, this isn't cool. I don't want to do this anymore. And they need to work through that. Yes, the resentment can happen. If not, the sex is going to go out the door completely. If she shuts down, you know, if she's a passive gal, she may not want to make her husband angry, which they could be afraid of his anger. Right, Terry?
Absolutely. I think that's and you know what's crazy when you say that stirred some things in me, is that if I yeah, I know.
Should I move? Okay.
Yeah, you better.
All right.
If I'm looking at somebody who 1 minute we're okay and the next minute we're not okay, and I get really surprised by that, it's like, well, we've got bigger problems than just what's going on at the moment. So I think we go back to, you know, how do you care about each other in the beginning, and you continue to care about each other along the way. We'll solve a lot of these things. But being able to say yes or no to something, if you're saying yes out of fear of rejection or fear of not being cared about, all those things, you got bigger problems than sex.
You do, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Don and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We're continuing our conversation with Pamela Conti, Christian life coach, on sex addiction. When she tells you, Terry, when your wife comes to you and says, this isn't working for me anymore, what are you feeling immediately?
Well, first thing that's is like, well, what happened here? Why not? Because it's like we were okay last night or last week or whatever it was, and it's like, well, okay, help me now. In my, how do I say this? In my past, that would have really ticked me off, and I would have really been angry and resentful in many different ways, because it's like, okay, we've been married X number of years, and you're now just telling me this, and now, what the heck, and you don't care about me. Today, I hope I've moved along further down that road. And when somebody says, I don't like this, it's like, okay, well, tell me about it. Let's see what we can do differently. Because the process of caring about somebody is the willingness to change, not the willingness to not change.
And that's important, because for our male listeners who may hear this, or may have recently heard this from their spouse, who don't have the 25 years of recovery and aren't trained specialists like you, there's a defensive wall that can go up.
Right.
And they need a tool to be able to hear what the one is saying.
But we got to go back, because actually, I hate to say this, because you guys are ganging up on me, but you've actually got some really good points, is that we shouldn't start talking 10 years into the marriage. We should have been talking a long time ago. But
but that's how it goes.
But if we get to 10 years,
right.
And now we're first, then you go start talking, and like Pamela was saying, is that you go find some people that a third party or a counselor or somebody in which can help you sort out what's going on, because it's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
And you are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com, here with Pamela Conti, Christian life coach. Pamela, last week when you were visiting with us on the break, you and Terry got into a conversation, because you are a Christian life coach and that is your primary clientele. You were very descriptive on what God's word says about the covenant of marriage and what that looks like. Do you want to go over that for our listeners?
Well, in the faith-based community and churches, the perimeters are set, the guidelines are there, and you are to love and honor one another. There's a oneness in the intimate act that happens between you, and when pornography is entered into that, or sexual addiction in whatever form it looks like for that person, that man, it breaks that bound in that spiritual realm with the couple, and you can feel the separation, you can feel the abandonment of your husband emotionally and mentally to you as the wife in that marriage. He's just checked out, and it becomes robotic-like. Sex with a sex addict becomes robotic-like with the wife.
So, Pamela, do you consider pornography, according to God's belief and your belief, to be cheating on your spouse?
Yes, the Bible is clear about that, and it says it is mental and emotional adultery to your wife, and it is the same as doing the physical act. And truthfully, before the physical act happens in any affair, usually you have an emotional and mental connection anyway. It's usually, sex act is usually the last step in an affair.
Okay, that's true. And oftentimes I think emotional affairs are even more dangerous than sexual affairs if you're getting your support from someone
Well, it's interesting can I put something else on the table?
Yes.
Would that be okay if you guys don't jump on me?
But you are listening to Recovery Talk Live. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com with Dawn and Terry.
I've been doing this this kind of stuff for a lot of years. And what I hear in couples who come in and sit on my couch and say, we got problems, is that typically one of them felt disconnected from. One of them felt, if not both of them. And the idea was that they quit talking, or they don't communicate, like Pamela was saying earlier. And that in many ways what happens is that somebody at work, somebody they met, somebody goes, oh wow.
Right.
And so now I've got somebody who
will listen to me, which opens up some pretty dangerous territory.
Excellent point, Terry Liddell. You're listening to Recovery Talk Live with Don Maxwell and Terry Liddell. You can visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We're here with Christian life coach Pamela Conti, and we'll be returning from the break. We're going to talk about hope and how to restore this situation, because we always believe in hope. Are you with me on that, Terry?
I'm here.
Are you with me, Pam?
I'm here.
Arizona reminds
reminds you to vote for your favorite Arizona
it cut
businesses
out and then it
before
came
July
back again.
31st.
Right
so
to the
vote
second.
early and vote often. And when
We
voting
might
for
have-
your
we
favorite
might have
radio
snipped
station,
Might have
last
snipped
one.
us a
remember where you
second.
heard this.
We got close.
Like 10 seconds before, there's like it stops, and then every time. Because I'm really tuned in because I'm counting the beats.
Everything Arizona drinks, people who bring it to you. Come
Yeah.
together. Join us for the Bar Pros of Arizona Cocktail Hour.
No,
No,
you
they
hear
do.
music and we're talking. That's our lead out.
Yeah, right. But
That's
they
it.
hear them talking.
We're here with
music a
Dr.
little
Mark
bit too.
Murphy,
Yes.
the medical director of
It's a
Recovery
fade out.
Centers in Scottsdale. Welcome.
Thanks, Gavin. I'm glad to be
So
here.
how many
You've been
minutes is the
hearing a
last
lot of
segment?
amazing
Because
things
we're breaking the
about
rule a little bit
27.
again.
depression on a national level. Researchers have called it the greatest development
that our long
in
one? Will
depression
you look it up?
science in the last 50 years. So, Dr. Murphy, what can
So
you
we're
tell
gonna
us
wrap
about
up.
treatment for depression?
Okay, I'd like to finish
Been
up
used
on the
safely as an
fact that a
operating
lot
room
of
anesthetic for over 40
communication
years. Recent
that
research has shown
doesn't happen
ketamine
in the
works
couple
to
is going
relieve
to
severe
happen
depression
with
extraordinarily
another
well.
person,
At depression
male or
recovery
female.
centers, we see remission
And
rates
that the
over
hope is
70%
that you
with
don't do
patients
that.
who've
You don't
tried
go
several
outside
antidepressants
Yeah, right, 'cause I was
without
gonna
any
say, somebody
relief.
is
We
shutting
offer a
down
money
in
back,
marriage and they're
move
actually going to
guarantee,
the
and wish to work
sex
alongside your
addict
current
behavior
mental health
because
How
care.
many
there's
calls?
There is
actually,
no longer
Terry,
a
would you
reason to
agree
let severe
there's an
depression
underlying
limit
problem
you or your
with
loved ones'
Well, absolutely.
So we'll do
And
6
so
and
now
6.
it's checking out.
Finish up 6 minutes with her, and then we'll
Well,
go
here's
6.
the
6 minutes. Yeah.
what I hear.
Are you with me?
What?
12-minute segment, 6 minutes with her. Signal from Colin. You and I wrap up for the last 6 minutes.
Dennis Miller Show.
Whatever you want.
I'm letting you know
I'm following you.
when
You
he
are my
gives the
leader.
thing.
You are everything that
I'm
I-
totally
So
flushed.
really, you guys have like one thought or two thoughts to conclude here.
To wrap up with you, and then close the show.
Well, then let's
Okay, well,
close
you
up
guys
the
have
show.
6-minute wrap-up, though, so you
Let's
guys-
close, let's
6-minute
close
wrap-up.
up. Then we could close up with what you should do. Be careful of.
Yeah.
This is how you get hopeful. So
We will.
we can shut that.
How do
down.
you want to close your segment? Welcome back to Recovery Talk Live. You're here with Don Maxwell and
Terry Liddell.
you can visit us at recoverytalklive.com. Please send us comments, concerns, questions. We'll get back to you. We're here with our new sponsor today, Pamela Conti of Conti Christian Life Coaching, talking
You are
about
plugging her.
Hey, we appreciate anybody who helps us keep going, baby. Let me tell you. You know, when God keeps putting it out there, we just keep following. So today we're talking about what sex addiction looks like in marriage.
Right.
And we're ending the last segment where you and Pamela were having a conversation about the husband saying, this isn't working, you know, what this was working before, why are you speaking up now? Pamela saying you have to find your voice and speak up because marriages can be saved. So Pamela, where does it go?
Well,
People,
here's
we want
where I'm a
people
guy.
to have
Okay,
hope.
I get my side in this. For a guy, most of the time we don't want a divorce. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a relationship with somebody that we cared about, that we engaged in, that we chased, that we married, that we made promises to. So a divorce isn't what we're looking for.
But when you, Pamela, what do you say to your husband? Can you give us a sample of a good way to approach a husband? Say it's 10 years in the marriage and you can't do it anymore. How would you approach your spouse?
Well, 10 years down the road doing that is a long time. But what it looks like, that conversation looks like, is she just tells him before they have that moment, she tells him, look, I'm not comfortable with that anymore. I feel it's wrong, or however she wants to say it. And then they have a conversation. And he has to either respect that and talk about, okay, what's not okay. And if they can't come to an agreement, then there is outside help. You know, there is hope for these marriages that are caught up in these things that are not comfortable for either partner or whoever. And they can get counseling for that, or they can move forward with conversation between what's good and what's not. You know, they have to get back to that place of honoring each other, loving each other, and respecting how each one feels and hearing their perspective. And, you know, come to a place where they both feel it'll work. Right?
I totally agree with that. That's scary. Because I actually agree with everything you said.
Wow, I'm frightened as well.
Yeah, I know. But you know, I was just thinking because a lot of churches and have programs for marriages. They have things that the couples can go to, that individuals can go to. Like Pam said, or Pamela said, that there's really counseling is a really good way because you have an independent third party who typically won't choose sides.
Creates a neutral zone.
Yeah, and it's a safe
Important.
place, and they can say, hey, this is her side, this is his side, what do you guys want to do? And they can help sort out the emotional aspects of it because when these kinds of things happen, they're not unemotional. They are highly emotional, because you got people who feel hurt, who feel that it's like, what happened here? I got run over by a semi. I wasn't ready for that.
So the husband feels like that. I'm glad you brought that up, and the wife is feeling violated. So there's hurt on both sides.
Absolutely.
Okay. But listen, I'm going to say something. The husband needs to come back down to normal married sex. He's up here in this erotic, illicit stuff that he's been viewing and trying out on his wife. You know, he's forgotten what it really means to love and cherish his wife intimately and not bringing all this other, what I call pornography is the mistress of the marriage. He's bringing this other stuff and women and intimate acts he's seen by other people into the marriage. You know, like I said before, God did not or create us to be watching other people have intimate sexual acts. It's to be experienced with your own wife, and you grow in that area together.
Okay, and that's in line. We're listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. And I just props to our producer, Colin, who is always here with us as well. That brings us back. He just never leaves our side, Terry, and we take him really to treaded
but he's blushing
treaded
today.
waters.
It's kind of
I
fun to
know.
watch.
Just shout out to him. That what she's saying is congruent with what you said. It's Songs of Solomon. There's no exterior parties,
So
right, Pamela?
The only thing that I would say is that normal sex is what you two agree upon, and whatever that is, it's like. And when Pamela said it's not what I agree upon, that's the turning point. Okay, this isn't okay for me.
In the faith-based world, we have perimeters, and we know for what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And again, pornography, bringing that in is usually not the balance. That's not love. That's lust.
Are you in agreement with that? That's not love, that's lust? Because you're saying,
oh yeah,
are you saying that if you both agree that, I don't know, sex toys are okay?
Right.
That they're okay?
They're okay.
Okay, what do you say to that, Pamela?
No, wait a minute, hang on.
Well, she gets a voice.
If they both agree.
If they both agree
that that's okay. Now, am I okay with the pornography? No, I'm not. Am I okay for them watching other people do things? No, I'm not. Am I in for swapping? No, I'm not. So I agree with what she said, that you don't watch other people have sex. But past that, the question is if it's okay with my wife and it's okay with me, short of pain, short of hurting each other.
Okay, go ahead.
Then you read Song of Solomon. It's just, it's pretty wild.
I have to go to Pamela. You are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry. We're here with Christian life coach Pamela Conti. And I think she's having some technical difficulties right now. But Terry, I don't know that what Pamela was saying, and we are having mic problems with her microphone right now. I don't know what Pamela's saying.
Right.
She's living congruent to God's word, the Bible,
right,
which you and I also are in agreement with.
Okay.
That God's word, the Bible says it's okay. There's nothing in Songs of Solomon about sex toys. I mean, if we're just going to go off God's word.
No.
I mean, if I can be.
But there's nothing in there that says they aren't okay. So that's why I say I go back. If you've got two people, and she made a really good point of communication between people. We got the whole process of recognizing that if two people cared about each other and they're talking about it and they're working through the things, as she pointed out, if I care about you and I'm willing to do things, then you're probably okay. Now, depending on a lot of other things, but if we stick with the fact that I care about you, you matter to me, and if you tell me that's not okay and I can honor that, then you're in good shape.
I agree.
But the other side of the coin is, what if wild
what?
monkey sex down the hallway?
Oh dear Lord, okay.
Okay, and everybody's okay with that, it's okay. So the question comes back to, from my side of the street, do you respect, do you care? Is this my wife, is this my husband? And we're moving towards each other. I don't know where the boundaries are.
Well,
okay.
I think, and
now,
I said this last week.
I'm still going back to what Pamela said, was the fact that you don't watch other people. There's pornography and those other things out of the bedroom. But behind closed doors, I don't know that there's any.
All right, so you're listening to Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. No, you know that I'm a little ailing today and a little off my rocker with some kind of bug. But anyway, what about you make an agreement with your spouse and you decide you're going to do something non-biblical, maybe illegal in some states. Now stay with me. I stayed with you on your tangent. And your spouse agrees.
All right.
Okay, I don't know how the spouse is feeling, and I'm saying could go either way.
Okay.
Your spouse agrees, but mentally you saw that somewhere, and your spouse may agree, but what if you're not with your spouse in your mind? It's a violation of the mind, so you're having to act with the person, but in your mind you're having a fantasy. See, that is not being present with your spouse, in my opinion.
So what's your question?
So what do you say about that? If you guys are having an agreement to do something, but if you physically are with your spouse, but mentally somewhere else, that's I'm not, like, I don't dig that at all. That's not okay, because you're not really with the person. That's inviting in outside forces.
Okay. So what's
Are
your
you in
question?
agreement with that? I want to know if you're in agreement with
Okay.
that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm going with your hypothetical.
Okay, my
that there's been an
hypothetical goes, I
agreement
go back to
between
basics.
spa-
Okay, here's the
Oh,
thing.
my
Here's
goodness.
what, okay.
Your basics are in a different book than mine, but go ahead.
No, it's like, here's the deal. My opinion is that if you're asking me to be present with you every moment of every time in every situation when we're together, whether it's sexual or whether it's not sexual, whether we're walking down the street or whatever, that's a goal. Now, am I going to be pulled around?
That is so sad. That's a
No,
goal.
it is. It's a goal. Because that's what the commitment that I made before God when I married my wife is, but he didn't strike me blind. So
But you
when I
have a
look at
choice.
somebody, sure, but I'm not going to go anywhere. I see a good-looking lady and I go, she's good-looking. I'm not going anywhere with that.
No, but you shouldn't be following her with your eyes.
I
You
didn't
need to
do that.
train
I
your
didn't
eyes
do that.
to look
I
ahead.
didn't do that. I didn't do that.
would
What
love
I'm saying to
survey
you is
your wives and see.
that we have different philosophies, we have different agreements, and if the couples agree, because my wife has said, she's cute, and I've said, that guy's pretty good looking. She goes, yeah. My ex-wife's husband is a very attractive man. He really
I'm
is.
sure he loves to hear that right
He does, and it's very interesting because she goes, he's cute.
Now he's concerned
we're
and
not
he's
go-
calling
no,
in
he's
on the
not.
other line.
No, he's not. So here's the thing. The point I'm making is that when you care about somebody, when you're connected to somebody, a lot of the stuff goes away. What Pamela was pointing out is when you start to get disconnected, a lot of things come into the situation.
Correct.
So I think if you want to know where the hope is, for me, I believe the hope is I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to move towards you. You are my wife. I'm going to work on the ways that we can be a better couple. So if I'm doing that, here's the problem. If we're not working on something, then we've either got it right or we got it wrong.
Okay, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live with Don and Terry. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com. We're talking about sex addiction.
Okay.
We did lose communication with our guest today, Pamela Conti from Conti Christian Coaching. In your thought, but we thank her, and in your thought on this process, Terry, moving towards someone means staying present with them in the room. And if you're recovering from sexual addiction,
Right.
and we're going to have to wrap up our show today probably on this note, that means starting for the man or the woman, getting the other images out of your mind and focusing on the person you're with.
Right.
And it's an exercise.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
But it's a commitment that I made when I said I love you, I care about you, you're important to me. And when I said I do, I meant I do.
And it's a journey.
It's a journey.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yes.
So the idea is we keep working on moving closer and closer and closer.
And progress, not perfection.
That's it.
But worth pressing in, pursuing your mate, pursuing outside help, and finishing in hope.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us today on Recovery Talk Live with Don and Terry. Visit our website, recoverytalklive.com.